What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bengals Show presented by the Riverfront. I am your host, Joe Farsing. Alongside me is a familiar face to those who have watched the Riverfront. And for people that like grumpy middle-aged men, Chris Garber. Chris, how are you, sir?
Jackpot. We're good tonight. I've been a grumpy middle-aged man since I was about 12, so I've got a lot of experience at it.
See, you're kind of my spirit animal. I'm kind of, I've been heading in that same direction my entire life too. So like we're kind of kindred spirits between that and the extreme affinity for Simpsons. And Simpsons.
Yeah.
So,
but I'm not that crabby tonight. I'm in a pretty good mood.
Unfortunately, I've got the Reds game pulled up on my other screen, so I'm not doing too well right now. But hey, Bengals are coming off a win. They look like they might have something manageable for a few weeks if this is where they're going to be till the bye week. So I think we're doing okay. Before we get going, everyone subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Riverfront Cincy. Today is the last day, and I'll say today as of Thursday when this is released, to be entered in to win tickets to the October 15th game versus Seahawks. We'll be doing that drawing. I would do that and announce winners on social media over the weekend. So yeah, if you want to get in, you don't have tickets and you want to get in to see Seattle. Plus, it does us all a favor to if you follow us anyway. So that would be very much appreciated. Also, I want to give thanks to our good friends over at SeatGeek, the best ticket pricing app. Use our code Riverfront, one word, for $20 off your first SeatGeek order. It's the best, easiest to use ticketing app there is. All the deals are rated. Green dot means it's a good deal. Red dot means it's a bad deal. Again, SeatGeek, use code Riverfront, one word, for $20 off your first order. Time to talk about Monday night's game. Bengals finally get off the schneid, 19-16. Greg and I both had guesses of 21-17, so we were kind of right in the ballpark. I kind of figured it's kind of a slog, not exactly an offensive. I was hoping that they would have a little bit more offensive explosion. Clearly that didn't happen, but the W is a W. You don't get style points in the NFL. This isn't college when you got to run where you got to beat teams 70-20, unless you're the Miami Dolphins, and then you beat teams 70-20. Have you ever? I don't recall ever seeing a game. I know the NFL record for points is 72. I don't remember a game that has been that big of an ass kicking. Like there are games. I mean, a high scoring game in the NFL is like 35 points. I mean, you give up 40 points, your defense got absolute steamrolled.
It's hard to score that many. It's hard. I mean, even back playing Madden, when you had it on kind of easy mode, and you're like, I'm just going to let it rip. You get to like 56 and time runs out in the game. Like, well, all right. The only thing I can remember was back in the Sam Weiss, Jerry Glanville days. There was the one glorious day when he just tuned up the Oilers, but it wasn't anywhere near 70.
That was 61-7, I believe. So actual bigger ass kicking, but against the Bengals, and we'll take it because Jerry Glanville is, and forever will be an ass. And Sam Weiss is pretty much a saint here in Bengals land. So, again, I mean, another slow start by the offense. This actually looked different than the last couple of weeks. They moved the ball a lot better. This time they were kicking themselves in the balls with penalties. They had 3rd and 1, and they got back-to-back false starts, made it 3rd and 11. There was another false start by Tyler Boyd on another drive. Later in the game, T. Higgins got called for a pretty blatant offensive pass interference. He was getting held. He was getting held pretty bad on the play. And if he would have just gone up to try to high point the ball, he would have gotten the pass interference call. Instead, he made a very blatant two-handed push to shove the guy to the ground, catches it. I think he scored or almost scored on the play, but it's.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious. I mean, I guess a Rams fan would say that was not quite a good enough makeup for the Super Bowl when T got away with a couple like that. But it was pretty. I don't know if it really was pass interference, but it's going to be called pass interference every single time.
At the least, illegal contact or holding, because he was riding him the entire way down the sideline, and that was Burrow's best pass, best deep pass all game long. So that's what was even more frustrating. They can't hit passes downfield right now, and the one that they do hit gets called back. And no matter what happened, like the play in the Super Bowl, T. Higgins got the yank down Jalen Ramsey by the face mask. So that's, again, there are a lot of fan bases that are really cool. AJ Green was all about that. I mean, he's the one that AJ Green, one of the most mild-mannered football players I think I've ever come across, that you ever see on a field, takes down Jalen Ramsey. Do you remember that game against Jacksonville?
No, I don't remember that one.
Right.
That was in my silent period as a Bengals fan.
Probably smart. Would have been, post-playoff run, so it would have been, 17, 18, something like that. And Ramsey been in his face all game and just doing just stupid ticky-tacky shit all up and down the field. Right at the snap, Green tackles him, slams him to the ground, and just starts pummeling him. Throwing fists to the helmet, which isn't...
That's not bright.
No.
Yeah.
Still funny.
I had like a 3-year run there where my boys were playing flag football every Sunday, and the Bengals were bad, so they weren't on TV around here that much anyway. So it was a lot of listening to the second half of the game on the radio was the extent of my following those teams.
It's probably for the best because, unfortunately, I watched pretty much it. If I didn't have anything else going on, I would be watching every second of those games, and it just kind of. You don't win awards for being a glutton for punishment, but I think you should. It's like being a Reds fan for this long. This suffering needs to lead to something. Like it has to.
You could do like me. You can fade away for a couple years and jump right back on the bandwagon when it gets good again.
That works. But unfortunately, see now I covered it. So now I do a podcast, so I kind of have to cover. So now I'm like, I'm stuck. Screwed myself on that one. Damn it. Should have talked to me over a year ago. Another slow start by the offense. They looked better. They actually got first downs. They still only had 100 some odd yards at half, but better than 60 yards that they had the last 2 weeks. Penalties or something. Bengals are not they're a very disciplined team. The last 2 years, they've been the least penalized team in the NFL. So this isn't something that I'm worried about. It's something that'll get cleaned up. And again, 2 of them were on offensive players getting false starts. That stuff almost never happens. You see that maybe 2 times a season.
Yeah, and Mixon just stood up.
Yeah.
And I don't know what he thought was going on, but I'm not worried about that. Are you worried about Joe Burrow right now?
I don't think so. He's nowhere near what we expect him to be, and this is what's so disappointing is going into the season. This is the season. The Bengals are at the peak of their Super Bowl window. It's the last year that Burrow's going to be under a reasonable contract, reasonable price tag. They've got all the pieces in place, and little did we know that the calf injury was going to linger throughout, at least the first half of the season.
Yeah.
He's making good decisions. He just can't drive the ball, and he can't get out of the pocket. He can't play under center because he can't accelerate from behind the center. From behind the center. So
it was weird to watch. I was down there, and what I leaned over and said to my son, I said, he looks like Tom Brady the last 4 years of Brady's career, when Brady's mobility was gone. And he knew that if he got hit hard, he was going to be injured and miss games. So he played a pretty conservative, smart, style of play. Now, the other thing that I noticed, though, was anything intermediate and more, Burrow's spraying the ball all over the place. Yeah. I don't know if it's because his leg bothers him or he's compensating and trying to get more arm strength from his upper body or what it is, but his accuracy and even the velocity on some of those outs was not what you'd expect from him. But at the end of the day, go ahead.
I didn't know that was a pregnant pause. My apologies.
Well, at the end of the day, I was sitting there kind of in my mind complaining, and I'm like, 12 hours ago, we didn't know if he's going to play. And I thought, what he did was better than Jake Browning probably would have done.
Absolutely.
So it is what it is.
Yeah, a couple of those outs that he threw. I think he threw one to Tyler, and they were just absolute ducks. I guess my biggest concern is if he is trying to compensate by using his upper body more, is that going to totally screw up his mechanics so that when he, does get his calf back under control and he can use it, is it going to screw everything up and totally throw up his mechanics? And it's going to be a year of just kind of accuracy coming and going.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought about that too because I don't know. You'd say ordinarily this guy knows his body, knows his mechanics. He's tuned in as anybody, but he's never going to get reps this year.
Right.
Like there's never going to be a point where he's like, okay, now I can go take extra reps. Like maybe ever until April when he can really go at it hard without any worry because he's always going to be saving himself for next Sunday. So he's going to probably deal with it all year. I know I've talked to people who have those kind of injuries and they're not professional athletes, but they kind of just come and go sometimes.
Yeah, I was 39 at the time, but I had the exact same muscle, like a grade 1 pull of the gastroc. I forget the exact muscle. Doing a throwing batting practice to kids, and I'm left-handed, but it was my right leg, so a totally different. The way that it got hurt and whatever, but obviously I'm not a professional athlete. I don't have scores of trainers and doctors and all kinds of orthopedists to give me, and I got over it quicker, but I'm not out there pushing it. So that's kind of like I was fine in like 3 weeks. I was able to get back out and I never run because I have a car. Why would I run? But the jogging and being active again and no issues after within a few weeks. I'm like, he's a professional athlete. He's fine. But then it's like, well, yeah, but he's still gonna have to push off.
Yeah.
Use that muscle. Completely integrate that muscle into everything. So it probably will be a while, and you just hope that he doesn't tweak it between now and the bye week. So again, you can absolutely sit him back. He's not going to get a lot of reps in during the week, which is unfortunately going to hinder getting more, just more comfortable. I think there's still rust being shaken off from the fact that he really wasn't out there, and then you're not getting reps, a whole lot of reps during the week. So I think you just manage it, and if they can run offense the way that they ran against the Rams for the next few weeks, again, they're not playing a juggernaut. Titans have a really good defensive front, but they're not that, they're not exactly the 85 Bears elsewhere. I think that, again, we were talking before, I think they can get to the bye 3-3 at worst, and I'm okay with that. If that means that he's coming out of the bye and the last 11 games, he's at, if not full strength, then 90-95% and getting stronger week after week.
Yeah. So, and every Monday morning you wake up or Tuesday morning in this case, and he's not complaining. It didn't go backwards. It's take the victory when you can.
Exactly. It's the year for moral victories. Damn it. Defense started to slow as well. And I had some pointed comments on, again, stay off social media, everybody, but it was pretty frustrating because they kind of looked like crap to start off the game. Puka Nacua gets thrown the ball 20 times a game, and he had a couple open, easy catches. Tutu Atwell had a couple things. I'm like, why is this still happening? The Bengals have playmakers everywhere, but they got it together, and man, did the defense get it together. 6 sacks, 2 interceptions. The Rams were 1 of 11 on third down, and the only conversion was the touchdown at the end of the game. So they were 0 for 10 at that point.
Yeah, it was dominant. It was dominant. And the best they've played against, maybe other than that first half last year against Carolina when Baker was on the field, it's the best they've looked in a long time.
Do you think anyone in the Bengals organization felt bad for Matthew Stafford having to play behind a couple of backups on the offensive line and just having a relentless pass rush in his face all day long?
Yeah. They I'm sure they felt real sympathetic to the shoe being on the other foot there. But gosh, I sat there. I'm like, wow, it's sure nice to be on the other side of this for once. with our defensive line just wreaking havoc and running over top of backups. The thing that got me is they never adjusted. They never gave that guy any help.
No.
They never put a tight end there. They never put a back on that side of the formation. They didn't even like double team Hendrickson very much. They just let him keep running over top of that poor guy.
It was weird. Yeah, I mean, you figured that they would have to try something. Like the right side of their offensive line is pretty solid. They were, they had another backup. Noteboom was kind of in and out, one of the guards. But yeah, I mean, you figure just have someone chip or bring the tight end on, because I mean Trey was living, like, he had 10 pressures. I mean, he was in the backfield all game long. He had another sack taken away from penalty. So I think that's 3 of them already this year. He has 3 sacks and 3 taken away by penalty.
I think that's right.
The extension that he had wasn't a huge extension or whatever, but I mean, he's definitely making a case that he's still underpaid because he's still one of the premier pass rushers. So we're going to go over our keys that we had last week for the game. On offense, the first key was start fast. Did they start fast, Chris?
Didn't feel like it. It didn't feel like it. I felt at halftime, I felt very fortunate to be in the position that the Bengals were in, honestly, and not getting run off the field because they did not start fast.
No, it was 6-6 at the half, and again, it was the offense. I mean, Burrow was moving the ball limited. I mean, and Mixon was running the ball okay. It was the 3 false starts and the pass interference that curtailed anything. Again, you just hope that they can take positives, from what worked in the second half and what was working through the game, that they can just start working that in a little earlier into the game, because they're going to get down in a big hole. I mean, even the Cleveland game, that was regardless of how terrible they played in the first half, it wasn't until the second half when the game got away from them. It was still a close game. One of these games, I mean, it's going to happen. They're going to be down 21-3 in the first half, and it lights out. I mean, it doesn't matter how well Burrow's going to play. If he's hobbled and can't push it downfield, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that would be the strategy if you're playing the Bengals, right? Is to, wave the magic wand and get up 14 points and then make Burrow try to throw it over top, which he's not going to be able to do. It didn't look like.
No. Second key was commit to running the ball, and not really. They had 20 carries, 3 carries by Burrow, not counting those because there's a couple of kneel downs. 20 carries for 69 yards. Nice yardage, but less than 3.5 yards a carry. Mixon looked good in stretches. He's hitting the second level really hard. He's sitting like he's in a car flashing a piece at somebody. That's how fast he's moving.
I felt like he looked fine, and I thought he looked by and large better than he looked most of last year. But even the carries number is a little bit inflated from the Bengals basically trying to run out the clock in the fourth quarter and keeping the ball on the ground. So, we've heard that a lot of it was those were run pass options, and Burrow is pulling the ball back from Mixon and choosing to throw it. I don't know what he was seeing, because it wasn't. I have to go back and watch film, which I haven't done necessarily, that those were the right calls, because in most of those cases, it's not like he was converting a pass for good yardage. It was more like he'd pull it out of Mixon's chest and throw it for 4 yards to a tight end or something.
You take away the last few carries at the end of the game when they were just trying to run it out, because he had 3 carries for -5 yards on 2 different drives. Then it looks better. It's 16 for 70 yards. And then you're over, 4 carries or 4.25 carries. Again, he's running the ball really hard. He looks, I don't know what he did. I don't know if he let off on the workload. I mean, being in the courthouse as much as he wasn't able to get in the weight room. So he probably took it a little bit easier, and his legs are a little fresher than usual. But I mean, he looks, doesn't he look like just his explosion? He's getting yards after contact, and he's, for as big as he is, he's terrible at that.
Yeah, except for he got that one first down yesterday on the second effort. That was a really huge play in that game.
Yeah, just a couple play. He just made a couple plays in every game that look like this is 2018 Joe Mixon, like just the young, fresh guy that um, he's always had energy and he runs hard until he runs into contact and then he goes down too easily for someone who's 220 pounds. Um, it's I like seeing it, but again, the team isn't committing to running the ball a whole lot, which is I like having Burrow have the option with RPOs because of his intelligence, the way he can process.
Yeah.
But if he's struggling and these throws that he's making are only netting 3, 4, 5 yards, that's not that much better. That's not that much more efficient of running when you're getting 3, 4 yards a pop running the ball.
On the running game, aside from Mixon, I mean, did any other back get a carry?
Yeah, Trevion Williams had 1 carry for 4 yards on the very last drive. It was Mixon for -2, Mixon for 1, or for -1, a penalty, and then Trevion Williams for 4 yards. That was the only non-Bengal or the only non-Joe Mixon carry.
I mean, Chase Brown was on the field a couple times that I noticed. Trevion maybe 5 or 6 snaps. I mean, I would bet you that the tight ends and Jamar were in the backfield 5 times as much as any back not named Joe Mixon. So I don't know what that says about those guys or how they feel about him right now.
I think Trevion Williams is who he is. He's the guy that he's always shown a little bit of ability when he's healthy, but he struggles to stay healthy. And ultimately, he's replaceable. He's not someone that you really need to keep on your roster. Chase Brown is someone that I think they really hope is going to be able to kind of step up by the second half of the season, take on a much bigger role, especially because Chris Evans has relegated himself to pretty much irrelevancy. Plus, he's always dinged up, and we'll see what happens. But I would like to have seen some more opportunities for Chase Brown. Again, I just put up. It looked like he had 1 snap last week, and that was the fake toss to him. That was actually really, really well designed play.
The naked boot to the right.
Yeah, fake toss to him to the left, and then Burrow booted out to the right and found Chase all alone right way down the sideline. And that's the stuff that they need to do. Find ways to scheme. And we'll get onto that. That's one of our another point that we have from last week. So, third point that we have for last week was utilize the middle of the field more. Everything that Burrow's thrown the first 2 weeks was just to the boundaries, either a swing pass or just kind of like a quick out, something like that. He was utilize it a little more. I mean, of all his passing attempts, he was 9 for 16. I'll pull up the picture here. This is next generation stats from NFL. And yeah, I mean, there's 19 passes over the middle. That's where his 1 interception was. But it was nice to see him at least try that. I mean, he had Tanner Hudson on actually a really nice play when he didn't trip over himself like he did earlier in the game. Honestly, do you have any need to see Irv Smith back on this roster?
Not based on what I've seen so far. And that's, we talked about running back a little bit, but the just complete refusal to invest anything in tight end, whether draft capital or free agent money, it just don't get it. We talk about going on the middle. I mean, how many? It's not bad anymore from the way the Bengals defense plays, but how many times over the years did we watch opposing tight ends just light up that seam route against the Bengals over and over and over? And just think someone with a little more athleticism who can get into the middle of the field and open it up would seem to be a weapon that they should want. But
yeah, Mark Andrews is a dude, so we're not really going to count anything he does because I mean he's one of the 3 or 4 best tight ends in the game. But Todd Heath Miller, those guys absolutely lived over the middle of the field against the Bengals. And again, when we were talking on X, Twitter, whatever the hell, the other day, and this was a historically deep draft for tight ends, and there was a tight end available at pretty much every spot until 6th or 7th round. Because when you get to that, you're kind of just picking, kind of wishing and praying off traits. But Bengals decided they needed 2 wide receivers. I get Charlie Jones. I mean, they need a slot guy to replace Tyler Boyd after next year and a punt returner. So I get that pick. I I love Andre Yossi. I mean, I might be his biggest fan. I mean, but did they really need to draft Yoshi? Did they like?
Well, and there's other ways they could have gotten there too. I mean, they had an extra pick, right?
Yeah, they traded down and got the extra pick to get Brad Robbins, who's been an excellent investment.
Yeah, it's worked. I mean, they could have used, they could have traded. The one thing I'll admit is like they were in weird spots where like they would have been reaching for whatever tight end if at 2 or 3. They probably would have been reaching a little bit. So trade back.
Yeah.
Trade back. I mean, they really like Jordan Battle, obviously, but you're looking at a guy who's a backup. He probably played 2 snaps, 3 snaps yesterday.
Not a lot.
Yeah, I don't. At one point they had, I think, a dime, and he was in there.
I think I saw 1. I had the snap counts up, but I lost them.
Yeah, I think it might have been when Cheeto was out. I don't know how he came back, by the way. I thought he knocked himself out.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. It was a big hit, and then I saw him like go down. I think that was more him just going down just to get him to stop the clock, or just to blow the whistle to stop the play so that they could get a substitution in. But yeah, I mean, he was in and out of the tent pretty quick. So let's see, fascinating radio. Yeah, here we go. 1 snap for Jordan Battle. And again, like you have Dax Hill, and I get you need depth at every position. You need depth. You have Dax Hill, who was your first round pick last year, and then you sign Nick Scott, who's this is a multi-year deal.
And you got Tyson Anderson, who you still like and haven't got a chance to play with yet.
Yeah, and you had Mike Thomas, who you ended up having to waive because of a roster crunch spot. That's just an absolute special team stalwart, and I mean the guy's as beloved as it can be. Just an absolute leader. All of his teammates love him. And maybe it was just one of those, we love this guy, we can't believe he's here, so let's just pull the trigger on him. But that's in the 3rd round. I don't like doing that in the 3rd round. There are other pressing needs, and it's biting them in the ass because they did nothing at tight end, and they don't have a good tight end. Drew Sample got the first he's starting tight end this week. Drew Sample is useful as a blocking back. Again, take away his draft spot that he drafted in the 2nd round. He's a useful piece as a blocking tight end. They used him a lot as an H-back, and actually is almost a straight up fullback this game, which is a good usage of him. But he's taken up a starting spot. Irv Smith is the guy can't stay healthy, and yeah, he's got a lot of athletic ability when he's on the field, but he was healthy for 2 games and didn't do a damn thing.
I don't know that he can get open.
Maybe they're running the wrong routes. I don't know. I mean, they never ran a ton of seam routes. I don't believe so. It's not as if they usually use the tight end over the middle of the field. And yeah, they haven't thrown it over the middle of the field, so maybe that's what it is. But I don't know. I'm ready to give Tanner Hudson. He's got more legitimate tight end size than Irv Smith. Irv Smith's basically he's a big wide receiver. I mean, Hudson was a guy. I mean, he played really, really well in preseason, except for the one game he got when he knocked himself out silly going for extra yards in the first game. But hell, take Mitch Wilcox's spot. I mean, I'm sure no one's going to pick him up unless they need a backup long snapper.
It's too soon.
Yeah, it had to be against the Steelers too. I know this is last week 1, but yeah. So, anyway. See, we're wandering here, and this is what makes shows long, Chris. This is what takes forever.
Yep.
You're not going to eat until 10 o'clock tonight. The last point we had on offense was to be creative, and this one they absolutely did do. They moved Chase all over the formation. They used a lot more motion than they ever really did. Again, we talked about the fake toss to Brown and Burrow booting out right. Chase was wide open downfield. I think they need to do more of this until Burrow is right. Brian Callahan was asked about it in a press conference today, and he said that Burrow likes players to be static. He likes everyone aligned at the snap so he can more diagnose and understand the chess game a little bit more. But I really think right now with his limitations that half the field, is unavailable to him, they need to move pieces around. I mean, for God's sakes, look at what Miami does.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to question the staff or Joe Burrow or things at work, but there's a lot about this team and this offense that is structured around Joe Burrow's like specific personal preferences in terms of never being under center, in terms of very, very limited play action, in terms of no, at snap motion. It's interesting, and it works as long as he's on on his game. And we'll see if it only works when he's got excellent receivers who can beat people one-on-one, which hopefully they'll continue to have. But it's just, and I'm like I said, I'm not criticizing it. It's just very interesting that we know so much of what they do is like, well, that's how Joe wants it. So that's how we're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much how Brian Callahan worked with Peyton Manning in Denver, and that's how every Peyton Manning offense was. It's you let him do. I mean, he picks the personnel, he picks the plays, he picks the formations, and you're completely fucked if he's unhealthy or you have to have a backup in, or if he's just unable to do the plays for whatever reason. So it would be. I don't know. You don't want to restructure the offense to make it more friendly for a backup quarterback if a backup quarterback is ever needed. But it would be nice to have a more system-friendly, at least set of plays, something that he can do as he's hobbled. So
yeah.
But again, I think that they will stay using a little more motion, at least until Burrow's able. Because again, you're getting Chase a clean release. It's helping you kind of diagnose whether it's, if guys following Chase or whomever's in motion across the formation, that's pretty good indication that it's man coverage. Plus you get the defense is going to have to talk, you get guys shifting around. The defense is going to have to communicate changes and everything. Might catch them in the middle of trying to change the play or, so I would love to see him use it more. And again, if it's the end of the season and Burrow's legs at 100%, cool. No motion, every play, shotgun, RP, whatever. That's fine. But you need to change the offense when your quarterback is limited.
And who knows? Burrow may see, he may try some of this stuff out of necessity and decide that he actually likes it.
Yeah, it might make him a better quarterback. Just seeing, you have to play with one hand tied behind your back, and you have to learn ways to beat you. So that could be another arrow in his quiver if need be. So. On to the defensive keys we had for last week. Most important one we had was rush the passer. Did they rush the passer last week or the other day?
Mission accomplished.
6 sacks. Trey with 2. A third one was taken off the board with a penalty. Dax Hill, Sam Hubbard, DJ Reader, BJ Hill, all with sacks as well. I don't think I've seen a safety come on a blitz like looking like he was shot out of a cannon as Dax Hill. That man has some absolute wheels.
That was exactly the phrase I used in the stadium. And I look over at my poor high school freshman sitting next to me who plays safety. And I'm like, just do it like that. That's how you need to close on the ball. Man, that guy's impressive.
Yeah, he made plays all over the field. It's funny because at PFF, again, I love PFF. I love their analysis. Their grades are pretty poor ways to try to judge players' performance. I get that's their point, but Dax Hill got a 42 overall grade for the entire game. Yeah. Making stops in the backfield. Again, making a play, absolute shooting the gap, cutting down the running back with 3-4 yards in the backfield. Third down pass play absolutely smothers Tyler Higbee. Stops him short of the sticks. I didn't see a bad play or a bad rep from him all game long.
He might have had responsibility on that Atwell run that was the touchdown that got called back. I haven't been able to figure that out, but 42, huh? Okay.
Yeah, there was one play that it was a pass downfield, and it was the last drive. He was the deep safety, but I think it was Cheeto who missed the coverage on it because Dax had to react. Dax was late reacting because he was covering the other side of the field.
Yeah, the ball. Yeah, that was, I think, Cheeto's blown coverage on that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they even said during I can't remember if it was Dan Orlovsky or Louis Riddick on the telecast said like, yeah, that looked like Cheeto did like should have carried him further down the field because I mean it was 20 yards downfield and Cheeto was absolutely lost. And that was the 37-yard pass down to Puka Nacua, and the play-by-play has Dax Hill listed as player in coverage. So maybe that's
that's the one to the left side down there, right?
down the right sideline.
Well, yeah, okay, got it.
Defense left. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, the key. I mean, the Bengals absolutely, were in Stafford's face all game long. I had to move him off his mark, and again, he's an old quarterback. He's 35. He's never was mobile. I mean, I think he escaped the pocket once on to pick up positive yards, but he couldn't even bounce it through any of the gaps. They had pretty good discipline as well to stay in their assignments, not to leave any gaps for him to escape and step up in the pocket.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot more fun to rush Matthew Stafford than it is to rush Lamar.
Yeah. Not as good feeling to hit Stafford as it is to hit Deshaun Watson because, sexual predators are always good to beat the shit out of, but still, again, I mean, he had to spend a lot of time in the cold tub after that game.
Yeah, I thought he played well. I thought he played well until the pressure got to be, really rolling. I thought he was pretty accurate, and the first drive looked amazing.
I'm curious. I can't remember at what point. I know it was early. I know it was in the first half when their left tackle went out. But yeah, it went downhill pretty quickly. And again, they couldn't convert any third downs at all, even on their successful drives. I mean, they had 4 scoring drives. 3 field goals and a touchdown. So it's not as if they were 3 and out every single time. But yeah, I mean the tackle going out, absolutely. I mean Hendrickson's going to win one-on-ones versus even the best. Even the best tackles, but he put a backup in, and that's absolutely putting a pork chop in front of a hungry wolf. The second key we had was to double Nacua. He had 35 targets in 2 games, absolutely ridiculous. They ran multiple coverage to him, and early in the game, first couple drives, he was getting the ball a lot, but total for the whole game, 9 targets, 4 catches, 50 yards. That's a good game for a rookie 5th-round draft pick out of BYU. But that's what you should,
Yeah, for sure.
So good job figuring out. Again, I don't watch Rams tape. I don't understand how you throw to one guy 35 times in 2 games. I mean, at what point do you triple cover the guy? I get Tutu Atwell is a really, really, really fast piece, but he's not a guy who's gonna beat you. He's not a guy who's going to make contested catches. You don't need to pay too much. You just make sure he doesn't get behind anybody.
Yeah.
How you don't put linebackers and safeties leaning heavily on the one receiver who's getting the ball twice as much as anybody else in NFL. Weird that the other teams let him get the ball that often. So third one was to confuse Stafford. And Lou mixed coverages in well. And again, started out, I mean, Stafford looked like it was the first couple games when defense didn't really know what was going on and late reacting to everything. But they got things together. I think Lou kind of took him a second to figure out what they were doing. And the whole rest of the game, there were a couple missed coverages. Again, there was another deep pass that was missed to right before the interception. Van Jefferson got behind defense for 35-yard catch, but deep pass that leads to 0 points. I'm okay with that. Lou looks at points. He doesn't look at yards, and we'll give him that one. So, on to the awards for the game. Who do you think wins the stud of the game award? Pretty easy pick, right? Trey Hendrickson?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. He just dominated the game.
Joe Esposito sponsoring that award. Yeah, 2 sacks, 7 hurries, 1 hit. I mean, he just That's what you pay him for. He was on the sideline. I don't know if you could see from your seats. He was pacing on the sideline talking to himself when the Bengals had the ball.
No, I did not see that. I always notice, Mike Hilton and Joe Mixon are the two guys who stay on the sidelines when they're not in the game. And, they'll talk a little bit with their teammates, but those guys are up there. I didn't see Trey doing his thing.
Yeah, he was just kind of looking like he was talking to himself. And this was after he'd already made an impact. Like, this isn't like after the first drive, like, man, I got to get in there. No, he'd already made his presence known, said hello to Stafford a few times, and just pacing the sideline, like talking to himself, like, this is blackout Trey. I'm really worried someone on the Rams is going to get decapitated, and he's going to wake up and have no idea what the hell just went on. So
he's an interesting guy. I mean, he just seems like he just totally refuses to talk to the media under any circumstances, right?
Yeah, I mean, he has to, got to have availability, but he only says a few things, and it's always all the praise to above to the Lord and blah 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 blah, and then that's all he says, and then he's done. No, say whatever you want, do whatever you want. Like Geno Atkins never talked to media.
Yep.
Cool. You play like Geno Atkins, you play like Trey. That's fine. I don't care. I really don't need to hear what you have to say. On to the not so best around award.
That boy is good. Mm-hmm. Good and terrible.
Oh.
This one sadly goes to T. Higgins.
Yeah.
Do you worry about his agent getting in his head?
I don't think so. He likes to play football. He likes his teammates. He looked good last week. I mean, something was clearly going on with that guy, though. I mean, the one drop, he looked like he thought the play had been whistled dead or something. Like, he just didn't even really put forth any effort to catch the ball, and that was weird. And he was clearly mad early on when he'd been open a couple times deep, and Burrow had checked it down and then misfired, and they got nothing out of it. You could see he was frustrated early in the game, and then again, I'm not going to say it because he's always been pretty reliable, but he looked like he was checked out for the bulk of that game.
The only reason I say that is because the first game against the Browns, he had 8 targets and 0 catches. Again, some of that was Burrow just trying to rush the ball and passes being off target. But again, it was another bad game. And I mean, that's 2 out of 3. And I'm not saying like his agent is, telling him to tank or anything, but more of just, this is what happened. Same agent. This is what happened to Jesse Bates. In his 4th year, he was pissed that he didn't get an extension before the season. It's the exact same agent, and he had a bad season. Like the first half of the year, he played pretty poorly. I know he's going to get turned around. I mean, T. Higgins is too good of a player,
Yeah.
And I mean, he was great last year. 8 catches or last week, 8 catches, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. But those plays cost. I mean, those plays hurt. The drops were early. He ended up total with 2 catches for 21 yards on. I think he had another 8 targets as well. So,
I mean, that'd be pretty bad advice if he's being advised in some way that's leading to this. I mean, go get paid. You got to put up the numbers. And Jesse Bates was fortunate enough to be able to play deep in a postseason to kind of burn through some of that bad early season tape and go out and get the bag. But Higgins is not, I don't know. If he goes like that all year long, it's not going to be great for him.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think it's him purposely tanking or anything like that. I think it's just he's thinking about it too much. He's worrying too much about the money when his agent's getting a bad reputation as someone who's just impossible to negotiate with, to negotiate an extension with. He'll get you a ton of money on the open market, but if you've got one of his players and you're in a contract year or coming up to a contract year, he's not going to make things like it's going to be impossible to work out an extension. If you're going to sign him, it's going to be at market rate after he's a free agent.
Yeah.
So
that's right. And that's fair. I mean, that's, Scott Boras never gives anybody a discount for his baseball clients. So I just think it's a bad week. I think he'll be back next week. And I don't think he's thinking contract. I think whatever it was. He just was off.
Yeah, and next week he's close to home. I mean, he's from Tennessee. You get to play in Nashville, so yeah, I would assume he'd be back. And again, it's if it were just last week, whatever. I mean, he has a bad game, just whatever, caught off guard. Burrow isn't able to hit the routes. I mean, his game is downfield, throwing 50-50 balls or throwing jump balls, and Burrow can't do that. Whereas Chase is still getting the ball because he can work underneath. And if it's frustration from that and just kind of losing himself in the moment, fine, like that happens. But it was, again, week 1, 8 targets, no catches and they were catchable balls that on plays that weren't made. So that's the only reason I even brought that. So, quick news update on injuries. Burrow today was just a quick walkthrough. They still had to do an injury report. Burrow took all the reps, but again, a walkthrough so that he's kind of just day to day as it goes, and hopefully he can get more reps through this week, just to just get in rhythm. Just so the first half of the game, the first quarter, isn't him just finding his tempo, being able to catch up to game speed with the receivers. So, Irv Smith with his hamstring is day to day. Again, take all the time you need, man. Just make sure you're healthy to get waived and passed up by a practice squad player. Charlie Jones popped up with a thumb injury. He was, I think, is listed as limited. I don't really know if that happened during the game or just slept on it weird, or
yeah, I don't know. I guess it was he couldn't do the walkthrough without his thumb.
That's again, it's funny that you have to, I mean, because it's an actual practice day, you have to list injuries, but they had to list him as limited with a thumb injury and a walk, Do you get the feeling, and again, you've been and you've got tickets, so you're there, but it helps that he ran one back for a touchdown last week, but he looks, it's getting the feeling like with Pac-Man, when the ball's, when the ball's in the air, when the punt's up in the air, there's a chance that anyone can go. And I was on him hardcore in preseason because he couldn't make anybody miss. He couldn't get open on passes, and he couldn't make the first guy miss on punts. But I think he's accustomed to the speed, and it feels like everyone has a chance to go.
Yeah, buddy, it's exciting. I mean, it's probably the single. He's probably passed McPherson. Like last year, there was a buzz whenever McPherson would come on the field because you're so amped up to see him boot one. When Charlie Jones is back there, and it's probably because he got a touchdown already, but like you think anytime this could happen. And even like last night or Monday night, the ones he didn't break, I mean, what did he get? 15 on one of them?
19 was his longest.
19, yeah, I mean, that's legit. That's puts you back across midfield.
4 returns, average of 11.3 per. So it's and he's got game-changing speed. Him running away from people isn't the problem. I mean, he was Next Generation Stats had him at 21 miles an hour on the punt return last week. So I mean, if he gets to the open field, then he's gone.
Yeah, I think he's just kind of getting a read for, like you said, the speed of the game and how fast and what angles he has to take to get through people who are also really fast.
Yeah. It's fun to have that guy because, again, I mean, I'm perfectly fine if you've got a punt returner that just fair catch hands the ball over to the referee and Burrow steps on the field every time. I'm cool with that. Like, Trent Taylor was fine until he had a couple muffs last year. Like, I don't want Darius Phillips, who's, yeah, he can break one to the house, but or he's going to muff 3 of them for every 15-yard punt return. So, but if stay sure-handed and break the occasional. I mean, you can average 10, 12 yards. That's a first down your offense doesn't have to get. And when you get an offense that is struggling moving the ball, that's
I mean, you pair him on one side and McPherson on the other. There's not that much pressure on the offense to at least get points now.
Yeah.
They're punting the ball. What Charlie Jones is catching on the 30. He's running it back to the 45. Well, you only need to gain 30, 35 yards to have a pretty good chance at getting a field goal then.
If that. I mean, you get to the 40. I mean, that's a 57-yard kick. I mean, yeah, he missed a 56-yarder?
I think so.
Yeah,
But it wasn't for distance.
Yeah, he just pushed it a little left, and he made a 54-yarder and 3 other longer kicks. I mean, goodness gracious, a 49-yarder, 53-yarder, and a 48-yarder. So his shortest kick that he all game long was a 48-yarder. That's pretty good. When how many years did we have a kicker to where anything over 50 yards was crapshoot?
Yeah, it was basically like throwing a Hail Mary, right? You figured you had maybe a 10% chance of it working.
Mike Nugent, I mean, he was an accurate kicker from 49 yards in. You cross over and you're kicking the ball from the 40-yard line, and man,
yeah.
Shane Graham was the same way. Randy Bullock's pudgy ass couldn't rely.
Nobody's asked. That's really the missing thing here with this Joe Burrow calf injury. No one's talked to Randy Bullock.
CZ Cavs.
Got to get into this. Maybe next week's show. That's your co-host.
I'm gonna try to
deep dive on calves with Randy.
I can probably get Kevin Huber's number pretty easily. My cousin was a long snapper for him for a year at UC, and Huber's got to have Randy Bullock's digits. So maybe I'm gonna work on that. You came up clutch with calves. Oh no, you didn't. What's Joe dealing with? That would be the highlight of my career to ask him that. How quickly do you think he'd just log off and start throwing shit? Wouldn't take long. Anyway, onwards to game preview for this week's game coming up. Again, 1 p.m. in Nashville versus the Titans. Again, another winnable game. The Titans absolutely got steamrolled last week by the Browns. At least escaped who they played for a minute there. Ryan Tannehill had a decent game the week before against the Chargers, but didn't look so good this week. Another older quarterback, a game that if the Bengals can get pressure, it bodes very well. I mean, the Titans are 1-2. I don't think they're as good as a 1-2. That division is just so ass, but we shall see. Again, quick offensive keys to the game here. Let me pull them up. First key, interior offensive line needs to be stronger. I don't know if that really even needs to be said. Cordell Volson gives as much resistance as the French do. Ted Karras and Alex Kappa have both been pretty poor this year as well. What does it look like? We're so used to everybody being pretty bad on the offensive line.
Yeah.
Now they have legitimate tackles. How does it look like from your seats? I mean, it's
I watched the line really carefully. Like I got the binoculars, and that's kind of where I start every play. It was so interesting. I mean, Aaron Donald was everywhere. He might have lined up in 7 different positions throughout that game. So everybody took a turn in the tumbler with him. But there were a couple plays where he just like materialized behind Cordell Volson. Like he didn't even put a glove on him. And next thing you know, Donald's in the backfield. Everybody else looked all right, I thought, and even Volson's wasn't bad. They were all good in the run game.
Yeah.
I thought they all looked pretty well. They did pretty well there in the run game. Jonah was fine.
He's actually looked really good. I think Jonah's looked – I think he's been the most consistent offensive lineman this year. But he's going to look terrible going up against Myles Garrett, so Brown had a kind of rough look in week 1. But I honestly think Jonah's been the best offensive lineman week after, at least from a consistency standpoint.
Yeah, I thought he looked all right on Monday night. I thought Brown looked really good almost the whole night. I mean, he had one play, I think, where he got beat, but he was helping and trying to help Volson quite a bit, and so was Karras. But sometimes, Donald would just split that double team, or Cordell had primary and Karras was supposed to chip on him, and he wasn't able to get there in time. So They look fine. I think I'm not going to complain. You know what I mean? Like this is miles and miles above where we've been for the last 2 years.
No Akeem Adeniji and Jackson Carman starting playoff games. Isaiah Prince starting the Super Bowl.
I was fine with Jackson in street clothes wherever he was.
Yeah, he looks good when he's in something else besides a Bengals jersey. A lot of teams have picked up, especially guys that teams that have just a dominant interior defensive lineman like Aaron Donald. They're going to do what the Chiefs did in the AFC Championship game with Chris Jones and just move him all over the line. I think the Bengals did a little bit of that back in the day with when they had Gino. Wow, totally spaced out for a second there. He hasn't been that long. And that's, he's going to find your weakest link. But as a whole, yeah, I thought Orlando Brown looked fantastic. They tried to run a couple stunts. He did a fantastic job passing those off. Got a couple pancakes. And again, he's an absolute mauler in the run game. So as a whole, the offensive line, it's small complaints compared to what we've had the last 4, 5, 6 years. But the Titans have a good interior defensive line. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons is in the short list of non-Aaron Donald division of being the best defensive lineman. I mean, he's fantastic. Great run stopper, and he's also gets really good push in the pass game. So I just want him to be a little stronger across the board.
Yeah.
Next key is more pre-snap noticing. Again, we talked about it a lot. Burrow, that's not something that Burrow likes a whole lot of, but I think that's something that it helped him a lot because he doesn't have the time to push, or he doesn't have the strength to push the ball downfield. So I think being able to get that quick, easy matchup, being able to get that quick, easy pass, we know he loves to get the ball out fast. And if you can get Chase untouched, something over the middle of the field, keep doing it, keep at it all game long. Third point, again, consistency from the playmakers. Again, we're not going to dwell too much on, go too much on T, but he didn't have a great game at all. Big three have 5 drops already between Chase, between T and Boyd. I think they had 11 or 12 all of last season. So I don't know if it's them just struggling with the different velocity, the different timing that they're dealing with from Burrow right now, but as a whole, I mean, the offense has been inconsistent to bad most of the year. So it's not just on them, but something needs to start, for the whole team to get turned around, especially the entire offense to get turned around. You need the guys that are your guys that you're leaning on, the guys that are going to be making a shitload of money. I mean, Tyler Boyd's made a lot of money in his career. He's a year for making big money, and Chase is a year for making gigantic money for that reason, for that end as well. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, before and even during the first quarter of the game Monday, I was saying the same thing about the defensive side of the ball. At one point I tweeted out something about has Logan Wilson made a play all year, and thankfully he saw that apparently in the huddle and delivered. But I mean he hadn't. You know what I mean? He really hadn't made a big play. I didn't think. And Hendrickson had played okay, but hadn't kind of splashed.
Yeah.
And those guys really delivered, and now let's see it on the offensive side.
Yeah, I mean, this is why the team is built around, a dynamic passing attack. I mean, again, the main thing is just catch the damn ball. It's one thing if you're struggling to get open, or if Burrow's struggling to get the ball to you, that's not on you. I mean, you're running the route you're supposed to do, but when the ball's thrown your way, just catch the damn thing. Or in Tanner Hudson's case, just stay on your damn feet.
Fall down.
Also, one of the first third downs of the game is being thrown to your tight end who just came off the practice squad. That was weird. That was a really, really weird
didn't seem ideal, did it?
Choice to make, but if he stayed on his feet, hey, it's a first down. All right. Let's progress to the defensive side of the ball, shall we?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, you want to introduce these?
Yeah, so the first key on defense is really to shut down Derrick Henry. Why Derrick Henry? I don't know. Shut him down too. And they've done it. They've done it really the last 2 years. Last year, they held him to 38 yards on the ground and 17 carries. In the playoffs, we all remember he only had 62 yards despite running 20 times. So, he did get loose a little bit last year on some short passes, but I feel like they've had a scheme to shut Henry down, and they can hopefully follow that script again this week.
Yeah, I think they do a whole lot of run blitzes. There are a lot of plays with Mike Hilton in general.
Mike Hilton, right?
Yeah, I know you had the Mike Hilton jersey the other last week. Again, for a guy who's 5'0" and weighs 100 nothing, that dude hits like a damn truck. I mean, Derrick Henry is a huge man. He's 240 pounds, and he knocked it, and he system plays him one-on-one and just absolutely just taking him out all by himself, chopping the tree down.
Yeah,
they don't have the horses in the passing game to make them pay on run blitzes, so I would expect more of that. Except I think you might see Dax Hill being the one coming off the edge. Mike Hilton's had kind of a rough start this year. I'd love to see him get it going, but I think you might see Dax Hill coming downhill on those blitzes.
They do seem like they've kind of switched that roll up a little bit. But I love the whole secondary. We'll see with DJ Turner, but those other guys, every single one of them hits, and it looks like they love to hit. I mean, I don't know if I've seen a better tackling secondary, like 5 deep, than that guy.
Yeah, and that's the fantastic thing is, again, I remember years ago when the Bengals cornerbacks, they weren't good tacklers. The safeties weren't even good tacklers. Safeties would come up and try to make a huge hit, and as soon as they bounce off of Ifeanyi Olalede or Chris Crocker, then they'd get another 15 yards till someone would chase them down from behind. These guys like the hit, and they're good tacklers. I mean, Cam Taylor-Britt, that guy hits like a safety.
Yeah.
Chidobe Awuzie, I mean, he's always been a pretty physical player.
He's been playing really physical this year, and obviously both safeties really can sting it. So anyway,
and I was going to say, and DJ Turner, he's graded kind of middle of the pack for cornerbacks in the league as a rookie, a second round. I think they've got a keeper. He looked really good. It seems like he makes a key pass breakup once a game. I mean, he's not out there for a ton of snaps. I mean, he's the fourth cornerback, but I mean, he looks like an absolute keeper. It looks like a guy they hit on that pick that's probably going to take or replace Cheeto next year. So
yeah. I think there's probably some culture to it. I think that being in that room with Mike Thomas and Mike Hilton and Cheeto, I think those guys, Cam Taylor-Britt prided himself on it when he came in, but I think all of them, like, they're not, and Nick Scott came across that reputation, but I think it's something they take a point of pride in, is being physical and not getting out muscled by receivers and then delivering hits. So it's kind of fun.
It doesn't hurt when your defensive coordinator has a secondaries coach background too. So he's going to give a little bit. He's got a little bit extra, tips, tricks, whatever. So not only have the cornerbacks coaches, your secondary coaches, you've got you can go to the defensive coordinator to get some really good tips and tricks as well. So. Yep.
So the next key is Trey Hendrickson versus Andre Dillard, who's the Titans left tackle. There's a good shot. This looks like a mismatch again. Dillard's grades are in that kind of 65 range in PFF, which again, we've talked about how much we believe in those grades, but they're also going to be playing a backup at left tackle. Skoronski's out, and
Dillard's taking his spot. And then
this guy Dylan Raditz is going to be filling in there. So hopefully that left side is a little bit soft, and Trey can keep the motor going on some pressure, and keep Tannehill uncertain, keep Tannehill jumpy, and get to the last point here: force turnovers. Tannehill threw 3 picks in week 1. For whatever reason, he still has the job over Malik Willis and Will Levis, but he hasn't been impressive, and hopefully the Bengals can capitalize and get some turnovers, jump out to a lead, and then take it a little easy, hopefully.
Remember when Will Levis was in contention for the number 1 overall pick?
Yeah, we may someday trace that back to Will Levis's agent.
There's a good chance of that. I mean, he's got the Josh Allen tools, but quarterback at Kentucky, you're not Tim Couch. You're not going first overall, homie. Like, you went in the second round. Second year in a row, they've drafted a quarterback with the thoughts of replacing Tannehill, who's just, I mean, he's Rasputin. I'm like, he's never going to, like, you're going to have to keep trying to kill that guy. I remember that's what they kept saying about Wayne Fontes when he was coaching the Lions. Like, they had terrible team after terrible team. They had Barry Sanders, Herman Moore, a couple good wide receivers, and nothing else. And that guy kept his job after, at best 6 and 10 seasons. But going back to the offensive, to their offensive line, Andre Dillard is the second worst graded tackle in pass blocking. Dylan Raduns actually has a worse pass blocking grade than Dillard. So that entire left side of the line is going to be an open spot. I mean, you would assume that they would bring in a tight end. I know they've got Okonkwo. I can't remember how to pronounce his name. Okonkwo. Whatever. He's a decent tight end, but I mean, they're going to have to help those guys out, or they're going to be running stunts, they're going to be running twists, or Trey Henderson's just going to be running past them every single time, and he's going to live in Tannehill's face. Either way, I'm cool with that. This would be a good game for Myles Murphy to get a lot of snaps on the interior and get his first sack. I think it's coming.
Yeah, I was excited watching him Monday night, but he didn't really go anywhere. The little bit that he played 2 weeks in a row, that I haven't seen him really do anything but run straight into a guard.
He did have a couple on, I believe it was Sam Hubbard's sack. They ran a stunt, I believe, and he played it perfectly.
Yeah, that's true.
He took the right guard, absolutely took him out of the play so that Hubbard had a huge hole to go into.
I was watching Sam run up the middle of a freeway on that play.
And that's exactly, I mean, Murphy's size and strength. And that's, again, he's more, he's a lot more traits than he is polish. And they knew that. I mean, he was a 2024 pick that they happened to get in 2023. But honestly, I believe in their scouting. I believe that he's a guy. And I think he's going to start getting more and more production. So I think this will be the week that he gets his first pick. So, or first pick, it's his first sack. Onwards to predictions. I've got Bengals winning 17-13. Again, I think it's going to be kind of another ugly game as last week. I don't think Bengals are going to fall in a hole like they did, because Titans aren't good. Derrick Henry is still scary, but he's a 29-year-old running back. There aren't a lot of 29-year-old running backs that are still productive. He's still going to stiff arm somebody into the nether region at some point, but I just have more faith the Bengals are going to figure something out more than the Titans are going to be able to put points on the board.
Yep, and I've got 20-11, which is a scoregami. I'm not exactly sure how we get to 11. I'm imagining Brad Robbins stepping out of the back of the end zone. Maybe on purpose. Maybe it's an intentional safety at some point late in the game. But, Bengals aren't going to score a ton of points, but the Titans aren't either.
Brad Robin, yum. That dude needs to get it going. Again, rookie punters usually struggle, and he had a little bit of a better game. Like, there weren't any, blatant shanks. But he needs to figure something out. And, I mean, at least he's getting the ball in the air. It's not like Drew Chrisman last year, who was kicking 40-yard line drives. Yeah. He's at least kicking 40-yard. Wow. I cannot say the word yard. Kicking 40-yard sky bombs that they're at least not returning. So that's silver lining. Yay.
Yeah, the first one definitely drew a groan when it was up in the air. But it was up in the air long enough that the Bengals were able to get down there and, like you said, no return. So it's not looking great so far for Brad, but there's time.
Yeah, and it's, for whatever reason, rookie punters struggle. Darren Simmons is one of the best special team coordinators in the entire league. So I've got faith that he's going to be able to get it squared away. But it's frustrating to watch because it's been a while since the Bengals have had good punting. I mean, Hubert struggled his last couple of years too. So, all right, Bengals are going to win somewhere around 20-ish points to somewhere around 10 points. We will be back Sunday evening for a wrap-up show. We'll be live probably around 8 o'clock. Chris, any final words before we get out of here?
I got nothing but hooday.
I echo that hooday, and we'll see you all later.